Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. My name is Melinda Pearson. I'll be serving as the MC for this event today. And I want to thank you all for joining us for the 5th Virtual Summit 2020, Be Smart, Learn Smart, presented by Carbondale United. As we get started, let me let you know that there are 2 modules in today's summit, 2 things that we'll be doing. The first is a Be Smart home gun safety presentation, and that'll be presented by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. The second is an online learning teaching technologies tutorial presented by Carbondale Community High School. After each presentation, there'll be a Q&A. You can submit your questions while a speaker is presenting, and we'll collect them for those Q&A sessions. And also, we'll share this PowerPoint on the Carbondale United Facebook page so you can access the resources shared after the summit itself. A few housekeeping tips. If you do want to ask a question, there are 3 ways you can do that. If you're viewing the summit in Zoom, you can just use the Q&A function in Zoom. Submit your question anonymously by checking the Send Anonymously box if that's what you choose to do. If you're viewing this summit on channel 16, you can call or text your question to 1-872-356-2939. And if you're viewing this summit on Facebook, comment on the live stream. If you're having any technical problems at all, just use the raise hand function. And also, to be eligible to win prizes toward the end of this presentation, you have to complete the survey provided after the summit. Winners will be contacted by phone or by email. The mission of Carbondale United is to provide an avenue of healing and community safety through the following: awareness, education, and activism. Our goals are to eliminate gun violence and racism from our neighborhoods and to provide events that are inclusive and diversive. On that note, there are a few upcoming events in the next few weeks in the Southern Illinois community. The first is this Saturday. It is a Clean Energy from Solar Energy Zoom information session to understand the benefits of building stronger, equitable, and healthier neighborhoods and communities. On Sunday, there's a rally in Vienna, a rally for racial justice in Vienna, followed by a peaceful demonstration. The organizers are asking folks to wear masks and to socially distance, and it is going to be at the Vienna City Park in Vienna on Sunday at 2 o'clock. And finally, there is a yoga in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, an hour of online self-care female yoga is being offered on Zoom for guided meditation and grounding techniques and to expand or begin your yoga practice. Sign-up information is below. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Jane Oddie. She will be presenting the Be Smart presentation. And Jane is the interfaith leader for the Southern Illinois chapter of Moms Demand Action. She's a trained presenter for Be Smart, and locally she has presented Be Smart to Rotary groups, Lions clubs, school superintendents, the Carbondale Human Relations Commission, University Women, and many, many more. So thank you very much, Jane, for presenting, and I will hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Melinda. We'll see where the little Be Smart slides are. We'll wait a second for them, but I want to show you, thank you so much. I want to show you my uniform. You know, in Zoom, you only see somebody from the neck up. So if you can see, here's my Be Smart uniform. That's a fancy word for saying I've got an outfit to go along with the presentation. I'm so excited to be here. And, you know, this is a special opportunity for us to talk. That's what Be Smart is about. Be Smart is a program developed by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America so that people can talk about gun safety, all for the benefit of our children. And so just a little background, Be Smart has been presented almost 3,000 times across the United States in many different venues. We have presented at national conferences of PTA, Safe Kids Worldwide, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Medical Student Association, and just recently, Illinois received a letter from the Illinois chapter of the Academy of American Pediatrics. And what they said in the letter is that to support the Be Smart program, they recognize that gun violence is a national public health crisis. So I just want to say there's huge endorsements for this. And so it's not just me talking, but people who have been trained and schooled in this. And I'm so happy to share it with you. So let's go to slide 2. I want to share a statistic with you that isn't on the screen that for me is one of the hardest to deal with. This is a difficult subject, and I want you all to just sit back and take care of yourself while I'm talking. The second leading cause of death for children in the United States is firearms and death by firearms. I'll just say that again. The second leading cause of death for our children is firearms, and the first leading cause of death for our Black children is firearms. Those are incredibly difficult statistics. Those are realities for many people, many families. What that means is, as you see on the slide, 1,500 American children, and children are defined here in this statistic as all people who are 17 and under. That many children die every year because of gun violence, and that averages out to 4 a day. When American children are killed with guns, the majority of those are homicide, 53%. That's nearly 800 children a year. 600 children die from firearm suicide every year. That's a huge number. And nearly 100 are unintentionally shot and killed. And we will talk about unintentional deaths soon. Are we on slide 3? If we're on 3, that's fine. There we go. We know that approximately 4.6 million children in our country live in households where at least one gun is loaded and unlocked. I'm just going to repeat that. 4.6 million of our children live in homes where there is at least one gun that is unloaded and unlocked. While school shootings and mass shootings typically are what we hear about, and they are in the headlines, the reality is that 90% of unintentional shootings and deaths and injuries among children under the age of 15 occur in the home. I'll just say that again, 90% occur in the home. And that's why we're going to have a Be Smart conversation today. What's more, what you see on your screen right here is this is a fairly recent statistic. In the last year, we have found that 78% of the school shooters who are under the age of 18 obtained the guns from homes of relatives and friends and cars and other trucks, vehicles. This makes a lot of sense, of course, because if you're under age 18, you can't legally purchase a firearm. So this, again, is a huge concern for all of us. Now, I know that this is an emotional issue, and we come from all different walks of life. I can't see you. I'm sure that many of you are parents. That's why you came here today. That's why you're watching. Some of you are gun owners. Some of you are not. Some of you may have a personal experience with guns. Some of you may have a traumatic experience with guns. But we believe that most gun owners want to be responsible gun owners. So we're here today to talk about that. It would be great if we were in the same room and we could actually talk, but you'll get an opportunity to submit your questions, and then we will talk. Well, all of us, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, so that we can do something positive to help our children. Slide 4, if we're still there. Here we go. All right. Here are some commonalities, and I want you to physically raise your hand in agreement. I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with this. Okay. We want all kids to grow up healthy and happy, I'm sure. All right. The second one is we each have the right to make responsible decisions about how to protect our homes and our families and communities. And that decision might include having a gun in your home or not. Okay. The third one, if you can prevent one child death, if I can prevent one child death by a gun or injury, it's my responsibility, our responsibility to do so. All right. So I'll just repeat if I haven't said it already. We're going to leave politics outside of this virtual reality here. And we're just going to focus on our kids. If this is slide 5, we're good. I want to take a few minutes, here we go, to talk about these 4 stories that have been in the news. We all, everybody I know who's watching this today, knows about the story on the top left-hand side. This is extremely close to home. It's just across the river. In January 2018, this is Marshall County, Kentucky, where 2 children were killed and 17 injured. And I just have a personal story to add to this. On the summer following that January, my husband and I went to a church down there in Kentucky because my husband is a pastor and he was preaching. And after the service, we were having coffee and conversation with people, and almost everyone in the room was affected by that. Also knew Bailey Hope and Preston Cope, who were killed that day. And one more thing that we know now is that the shooter in that particular sad day got access to firearm from his stepfather's bedroom. So that's just a verification of that very sad statistic we already know about. So the story on the right-hand corner, Louisa is a place in Virginia, is a town in Virginia. Again, a very traumatic story about a 4-year-old brother who thought that the gun was a toy. And we know in Moms Demand Action that when we look at a gun, and we have personally seen toy guns that look exactly the same as real guns. And that's what he thought. He thought it was a toy gun, and he killed his 2-year-old brother. That is an unintentional shooting, an unintentional death, but of great sorrow. And then on the bottom left-hand side, this story is about a 17-year-old young man, Zeke, from Jackson, Mississippi, who told the Jackson Free Press that many young people want to carry a gun because they're afraid of being robbed or shot and believe that a gun will make them safe. That's a common feeling of teenagers. And then the USA story, which you can't necessarily tell by the headline, but a 13-year-old boy, teenager named Mikey from Brewster, New York, came home. He's in 8th grade. His parents thought he was having a great day. He was a happy kid. They thought for sure he was an excellent bowler and athlete. He came home and he accessed an unsecured firearm and killed himself. These stories are extremely sad, and everyone is different, and everyone affects those families and their friends for the rest of their lives. But I have to say, these are all preventable. I'll repeat that. These are all preventable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So here we go. It's important that we look at our Be Smart, and this is the acronym for Be Smart: secure all firearms in your home and vehicle, model responsible behavior, ask about unsecured guns in other homes, recognize the role of guns in suicide, and tell your peers to be smart. Really, talking is what Be Smart is all about. So let's go to the next slide. What does it mean to secure guns? People may have different definitions of that, but for us in this presentation, securing guns means to lock up a gun in one place in your home and lock up the ammunition in another place. You can look at that slide on the top. 13 million people, households, I should say, have at least one gun that is locked and or not locked. We don't know. 13 million have at least one gun and have children in that household. One study found, as you can see on the screen here, found that the majority of children in gun-owning households know where the guns are stored. Oh my goodness, all of you who work with children know how smart they are. And they're very observant. And even when you think they're not listening, they are. And so they know where the guns are stored. And we already know about the incidents of gunfire on school grounds, the majority of shooters, we've seen that statistic. And we know, like the tragedy in Marshall County, what can happen because of that. So store guns locked and unloaded with the ammunition locked up in another place. So when we talk about be smart, hiding a gun is not securing a gun. We already know a story about that too. So when we do presentations, we say, where do you secure your firearms? And so let's talk a little bit about securing firearms. We got to go back to the other slide. We're going to be on that one for a while. Thank you. I have a visual aid. This is called a cable lock. And many of you may think that this is what you use for a bicycle. It looks exactly the same. This is for a handgun. You spread that through the handgun. And then the keys, which you can see here too, those are going to be stored someplace else, along with the ammunition someplace else. So there are many other kinds of secure storage. I don't have those visual aids here today, but you can go to Rural King, you can go to Lowe's or Walmart. They all would have a gun safe, which is a box that is about this size, and a handgun can fit in that. Some of those are biometric. That means it takes a finger, I don't know if it's a fingerprint or a thumbprint of your own to get into it. And then at those 3 stores, they also have huge gun safes. I could show you a closet here in my bedroom, and sometimes the gun safes are as big as that. Of course, more expensive, but firearms can be secured in there. And again, ammunition and another type of storage, locked storage. I want to say that 380,000 guns are stolen every year. From homes, from cars, from trucks. And we know the results of that. But we need to also secure the firearms when they're in a vehicle. This would work again. You could also secure a firearm by putting it in a locked trunk and the ammunition someplace else. So when we say hiding a gun is not securing a gun, let's just be real specific. What that means is putting a loaded firearm on top of your refrigerator, in a closet, in the back of a closet. That is not securing a gun. Just want to make sure we're being real specific. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. Model responsible behavior. Well, we talked about that a little bit in the beginning, that we all want to protect our children. And the way to do that is to model responsible behavior. And so it is the adult's responsibility, it is ours, not the children's responsibility to avoid guns. So what do we mean by that? We mean, of course, first of all, securing the firearm, but it also means that if your children are taught not to touch a firearm if they're anywhere else, at a park, at another person's home, at a relative's home. This is when you're always talking about kids, anything that is unsafe, drugs, drug paraphernalia, anything that's going to be a risky thing for them. Tell an adult and don't touch it. Tell an adult and don't touch it. We have one study that shows that the majority of children, as we mentioned, know where guns are. And also, 1/3 of the children reported handling their parents' gun, maybe doing so without the knowledge of the parents. 1/4 of parents did not know the children had even seen or touched the gun. We're on slide 8 now. And so here we go. This is one of my favorite slides. The reason is because this is something, in addition to your own home, how you can help to keep children safe. So ask, what do I mean by that? I mean, ask before your children go to visit at another home, how do you secure your firearms? You may get many answers to this question, just as I mentioned before. We put them in the back bedroom. We hide them in the laundry room. Our kids don't know where they are. But just as you have conversations with your children, and we're talking teenage children here probably, your teenage children, you ask questions. I used to, when my kids were teenagers, these are the questions I would ask. Okay, you're going to Sarah's house. Who's going to be there? Is an adult going to be there? Are boys and girls going to be there? What, are you going to have alcohol there? I'm sure. Ask all those questions. So you can also say, how does the mom and dad, the adults in the family, any adult there, secure their firearms? The answer may be difficult for you, and maybe you'll have a difficult decision after that. Do you straight out say, I don't know if you can go because they don't secure their firearms? That's a good conversation, a really good conversation to have. It's not an easy conversation right now in our world, but so necessary. And if you're concerned about doing that, as it shows on the screen, you can text, you can email. Yes, as I said before, 4.6 million children live in a household with at least one loaded unlocked gun. We don't know where that is. We don't know who has a firearm that is loaded and unlocked. That is the reason we want to ask the question. And I just want to mention too that there are so many resources that could be helpful in this regard. So it's at besmartforkids.org. We're not through. I just wanted to mention that because we have more resources on how to talk to children about firearms and how to talk to others. Let's see if I covered everything here. I think I did. So asking about guns in the home should be as natural as asking about other safety issues. And maybe you could practice. I practiced with my friends before I talked to my family. Talking to family can be a difficult, emotional one. So having practice is good. Next slide, please. I think this slide just shows us that you can do it on a text. We do our Facebook Messenger. There's so many ways to communicate these days. Much better to have that conversation in any form. So let's go to the next slide. R in Be Smart acronym is recognize the role of guns in suicide. This is a very difficult topic, but one especially we want to talk about with our teens. Most people, as you can see on the screen, who attempt suicide do not die unless they have a gun. It is just so much easier. 85% of suicide attempts result in their death. And this could be avoided. Let me go back and look at that bullet point again. Boy, that's an awful word for that, isn't it? 85% of suicide attempts result in death, much more than any other means of self-harm. This contributes to the fact that, as you can see on the next number 3, that the fact that 40% of child suicide involve a gun. Nearly half of all of those who survive a suicide, though, say that they spent less than 10 minutes thinking about it. The reality for many teens, myself, when I was a teen, my emotions were up and down. My life was up and down. I was thinking like an adult sometimes and thinking like a little kid sometimes. It takes a while to grow up. It's a very emotional time. The National Youth Survey, I think we can go to the next slide now. The National Youth Survey conducted by the CDC showed that 17% of high school students surveyed had seriously considered attempting suicide. And that next statistic is very difficult. 41% of adolescents in gun-owning households report having easy access to guns. We know that children are smart. Teenagers are even smarter. Not only did they have easy access, they knew where they were. And as we discussed earlier, research shows that responsible firearm storage is associated with a 78% lower risk of child firearm suicide. And I'm going to repeat that one. Research shows that responsible firearm storage, that means securing firearms, is associated with 78% lower risk of child firearm suicide. So what do we do when we are concerned about this time in the lives of our teenagers? It may be a time to think about having those firearms totally out of your home. This is just one way to take care of the situation. Those firearms can be given to our friends or family, but the Be Smart program recommends that if you do so, you give that gun safe to your family or friends, and you secure the ammunition in your own home. You couldn't give the gun to your family and friends locked, and you keep the key in your home. This is also possible to talk about with your local police department. They may have a place to store firearms for you for a temporary period of time, or a local gun range may do that as well. So there are options for you. Let's go to the next slide. I really like this slide, and I want you to take the time to write these resources down if you need to. I have made a call to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline before on behalf of a friend of mine. It's great. You can always call them, and they always answer. And then for LGBTQIA youth, there's a special phone line for them, phone number for them, or you can use a text at any time. Next slide. I said that the A was my favorite slide, but I really like this one too. T is tell your peers about Be Smart. And this is easy to do. I say that because I've done it, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And if you're not sure about doing that, having that conversation, contact us. We'd be happy to do a presentation. And my contact information is momsdemandactionjane@gmail.com. Again, you can also look and study more resources at besmartforkids.org. This second on the screen, research shows that law enforcement, military, and hunting or outdoor groups are particularly effective and communicating safe and storage practices. So if you know any of those folks, reach out to them, have them come and speak. Someone talks about Be Smart every 21 minutes. So we are available to you. I'm going to repeat that my contact information is momsdemandactionjane@gmail.com. And if you don't get that written down, contact Carbondale United. They can get my phone number and get it out. This has been a joy. Go to the last slide and we'll just review together. There's the next slide, please. Okay, here we go. Secure all guns in your home and your vehicles. Model responsible behavior. Ask about unsecured guns in the homes. Recognize the role of guns and suicide, and tell your peers about Be Smart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane. I've heard that presentation a few times as a member of Moms Demand Action, but also as a mother. Every time I hear it, I'm reminded of something else I could do to be a little bit more vigilant and do a little bit greater job in preventing such a tragedy. So thank you very much for that presentation. I'd like to open it up for questions. Again, there are 3 ways to submit your question. You can submit it in Zoom using the Q&A function. You can call or text your question to channel 16 at 1-872-356-2939, or you can submit it on Facebook on the live stream. So do we have any questions that have come in or anything that we need to pause to answer before we move on?
Not at this time.
Okay, no questions at this time. Jane, that must mean that you answered everything before anyone had a chance to even ask it. So with that, I'd like to move on to our next module of the summit. It's our home learning tech, and our speaker and presenter for this module is Alejandro Ruiz, who is the Dean of Students at Carbondale Community High School. He has served as a high school teacher in math and Spanish for 17 years and is currently enrolled in McKendree University's Educational Leadership Graduate Program. I'm sure that he hasn't had a year like this as an administrator or a teacher, as have no parents or students. So I'll let him talk about home learning and how we can navigate that in these unique times.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Melinda, and thank you, Carbondale United. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here today and just talk to you guys a little bit about this whole remote learning tips for parents and things. I know these are, as you mentioned, these are very unique times. Never had we had a year like this, it seems like, and it seems like everybody's kind of like on year one of either being a teacher, an administrator, or anything of that sort, even a parent. It's year one of being a parent under a full year of remote learning. So, what I would like to do today, if possible, is just kind of go over a couple tricks, a couple of things that parents should know under these remote learning conditions, because we understand that, parents are at home, they want to help, your natural instinct, you want to help, and sometimes not knowing how to help can be very stressful, make you feel a little helpless, and we don't want people to be any more stressed than they already are. So if this presentation can help you just relieve a little bit of that stress, a little bit of that anxiety, then it would be well worth the time, okay? Let me see. I'd like to go ahead and share screen at this time if possible. Do you know if I have permission just yet?
Let me make sure, Alejandro, just one moment. You should be good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Okay, can you guys see that okay?
Looks
Looks
great.
good.
Excellent. All right. So these are I just did a really quick top 5 things parents should know in remote learning. Going to keep it simple. And some of these kind of work hand in hand with each other. So if I repeat myself, it's probably because it comes up in more than one way. But the top 5 things parents should know. Number 1, how to ask for help. It's huge. Who do you ask? How to ask for help. Number 2 is how to find your school's homepage and keep up with announcements. 3, how to log into your parent portal. Number 4, what are some keywords in this remote learning? What are some terms that are being thrown out there a lot? A lot of times people will say words that we're not too sure what that even means. So it's always nice knowing what they're talking about. And then number 5, how to get information on things you don't know, which is very important right now. More and more information is getting thrown out there daily about like what you can learn about remote learning. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Number 1, how to ask for help. As a parent, if I'm looking at my son, my daughter in their Google Classroom, some days it could be a little bit like a foreign language. You don't know what's going on, and you might want to know, hey, how do I know where your assignments are? You might try to navigate it on your own, but it's almost like going looking for something that isn't necessarily supposed to be that hard. Number 1, my first request would be ask your child, ask the student. There's a good chance that at some point the teacher told them, and let's be honest, sometimes students will sit there and let you look everywhere, not know where something is, and when they knew the whole time, and you might be like, why didn't you tell me? And they might be, well, you didn't ask. So please ask your student first, okay? Number 2, if you're not too sure, look at the district homepage or the high school homepage. I say high school a lot because I work at a high school, but whatever your school might be, go ahead and look at their homepage. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show you just a quick example of how that works. All right, so let's say I don't know how to get to my school's homepage. You know, Google's going to be your friend. So go ahead and just kind of like go onto Google. If my kid goes to CCHS, I go CCHS 165 and hit enter. There's the first result comes up. I click it. There's my high school's homepage. Okay. It's huge because they will have a lot of information for you right here. You see it, there's a whole remote schedule for the kids to know what time their day begins or ends, along with a lot of other information about the days that are coming up. A return to school plan. A lot of times parents want to buy in, but we got to know why we're doing things. So there's been a lot of thought put into bringing the school back, whether that be a remote plan or a hybrid plan or all back plan. There's a lot of information in these school websites. Please go ahead and go there and check it out. And then the last thing about how do you ask for help about something you don't know, call the school. Usually the school secretary, she will definitely let you know what's going on. If not, she'll direct you to someone who might know. Tip number 2, how to find your school's homepage and keep up with announcements. I kind of did that a little bit right now. I just showed you how to find the high school website. But let me go ahead and switch screen. All right. We talked about that real complicated link right there. You're not going to remember that. You're probably not going to memorize it. So please go ahead. Again, remember, Google's your friend. Go to google.com and just type that in. Type in CCHS 165, hit enter, and it'll come up. Same thing with the District 95 homepage. You know, that's pretty hard to remember, that CES95.org. Don't. Just type in District 95, Carbondale, Illinois, and it'll take you to the homepage. Let's go ahead and let's click onto that homepage real quick. I'm gonna have to share my other screen now. Here's a District 95 homepage. All right. Again, they will have a lot of information about like their return to school plan. They'll have information about the different schools. If you look up here on the top left, it'll show you, let's say my child goes to Carbondale Middle School and I want to find out what's going on then. I go to their page. Every school will have their own little schedules and plans. It's very important to go to those web pages because they'll have announcements, recent news, the lunch menu. You know, where does my kid get lunch? Under these situations where our kids aren't going to school every day, sometimes we get a little stressed out about this information. You know, we don't want our kids going hungry, or we want our kids to bring home food. So we need to know where to find this information. Let me see. Let's go to tip number 3. A parent portal is very important, especially under this remote learning where we're not 100% sure all the time how well our kid has it under control. We might think, oh, look, my child, he's getting into Google Classroom just fine. You see they're on the computer all day in the classroom. Coming to find out the grades are not that hot. So how can we as a parent have a better understanding of what all's going on? I would definitely recommend the parent portal. Under the parent portal, you get information such as attendance. Did my child attend every class? What kind of grades they have? A way to email your teachers or the counselors of your students if you have any questions. And then it'll also just let you immediately see what's going on with their grades. I cannot stress enough how important that is, to be able to to either, if you don't check into the grades, let the students check in for themselves into their grades, and they can tell you what's going on too. But a lot of parents like to know. Sometimes students might not be willing to share some information such as a low grade, but we can definitely have an idea what's going on if we check into our portal. Again, if I want to show you how to get into a portal for the high school, let me do. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go CCHS, hit enter. Computers are pretty smart. They'll remember half of the information all the time. I'm going to go to the high school website where it says students and parents. I'm going to choose parent portal right there, that second option. Students can do the same thing too. So if you want to empower your student to check their own grades and attendance, they can go to their student portal. But as parents, here's where we would like to go, this parent portal. Click into it. And then make sure you go under the parent section. I went ahead and I made a little account, just a John Doe account as a sample parent. And I will go into it right away. It'll have announcements for me on the top. It'll have my student schedule down here. This happens to be just a blank account. So, but you will see your teachers, or your students' teachers, their schedule, what hour they have, what teacher, along with some current grades right here in the middle as well. You can modify your settings. You can make it to where it shows you the assignments that are missing, that are turned in. It shows you if you have any bills, but really, like, the biggest thing probably for this is going to be grades, attendance, and then over here on the left, you can send an email. You can send an email to all your teachers, your principals, your counselors, because sometimes it's not always just under this remote learning, it's not just academic. Sometimes we might need to get a hold of a counselor because our child is stressed out or is struggling with something that might be personal going on in the house and with our family. So we might need to support you guys with some emotional support as well. We do have counselors, we have professionals in our school that can help, and we would love for you guys to reach out to us so we can support you. We want to be there for you guys. But again, the parent portal makes it easy for you to be able to just click which ones you're going to want to email to, update it, hit OK, and then make your email. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Tip number 4. What are some key words with remote learning? I know, like, you're gonna hear things like Google Meets, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams versus Microsoft Meeting. Just know that a platform is whatever the program that a class is using to kind of basically have their class. A platform can come, at the high school, we have 3 different platforms to hold a class, either a Google Suite platform, which is using Google products, Microsoft Teams platform, which uses Microsoft products, or like what we're doing tonight, a Zoom meeting where we have a video conference for information with students, okay? Google Meets is just like the Zoom version of Google Class, all right? Microsoft Meeting is like the Zoom meeting for Microsoft Teams classrooms. And then Zoom is just a way to communicate. The next thing is synchronous versus asynchronous. Synchronous is when a teacher and a student are like face-to-face and they're having a live classroom. That's synchronous. It's syncing together. Asynchronous is when a teacher has, like, let's say a Google Classroom set up, and then the student comes in on their own to work, but they're not necessarily getting that instruction live. So those are 2 terms that, as of, like, I think about 3-4 months ago, just started getting used a lot, and parents such as even myself at first didn't know what that even meant, synchronous versus asynchronous. Again, synchronous, they're in sync, it's live. It's face-to-face. It's going on right now. Asynchronous is kind of like at your own pace. Guys, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. There really are. Synchronous is great because you get to hear the teacher live, but also as an education, sometimes internet connectivity can interfere, or student availability might not allow the student to be there live, so they might miss out on something. And then asynchronous would be beneficial because the student can work at their own pace during their own schedule, but it's disadvantageous because maybe a teacher can't explain that whatever's going on to them immediately and get feedback to them. So they both have their pros and their cons. And then communication. With remote learning, we've found that communication is probably the single most important thing. There's going to be a lot of things we don't know, we don't understand, but communication under this is going to come in different ways. We just have to be flexible. We have to be flexible to know that some days we're not going to be able to even email each other, so we might have to use a phone. Sometimes we might not have time to call the school because we're working all day. So we might have to be creative and get our information through, like, say, the district webpage and learn what's going on through that route. So if you ever have a problem, please communicate to the school, to the teachers. It really gives us a better understanding of what's going on, and so that we can better support you. Okay. Okay, and then lastly, how to get information on things you don't know. I'll be honest with you guys, YouTube, there's probably a YouTube video for mostly everything out there. If you use it in a positive way, you can learn a lot with YouTube. YouTube tutorials, how-tos, how do I send my assignment on YouTube or on Google Classroom, and you'll probably see 10 videos on that. Let me see. Also, sometimes going to the platform's webpage. Google is a huge corporation. They have very smart people working there that have a lot of great video tutorials on how to do things, both as a parent or a teacher or even a student. You can learn a lot through the on-site tutorials that they have. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my browser. All right, I went ahead and I got a couple of, I did a couple of examples. I just typed in Google tutorial for parents, and this is something that came up. What's a Google Classroom? How to get started. It tells you step by step, because some parents, if I tell you open your browser and go to the Google homepage, some people might just flat out say, what's a browser? So it really shows you step by step how to get into a classroom, how to go into a certain section of it. And guys, I mean, it's okay. It's definitely a good time to learn right now. Shows you how to go into searching for it, signing into a classroom. And I did want to do that. I kind of wanted to give you a quick tutorial on that. I'm going to go to google.com and just show you flat out, like if I'm signed in under Google as a student, I can go to google.com, and over here it shows you I'm logged in. I click this little square and I hit classrooms. As a student, it'll show me all my classes. I just kind of made an example class for myself, and I made myself a student in a colleague of mine's class. So this is kind of what a classroom looks like, guys. The way it's typically set up, I'm going to show you right now, is you'll have your class name here, and usually right below it will be a link. If the students click on this link, it'll take them to their live session that they go to every day. So most teachers will put this link either right underneath the name, if they wanted to make it the easiest way. In the front page, as you can see here, there's a stream tab, there's a classwork tab, there's a people's tab, and a grades tab. Let's go back to stream, because that was the front page. Usually, if the Google Meet link is not there, you scroll down and it'll be somewhere here. The stream page is made for classroom announcements. It's usually just announcements. It's not your assignments. It's not going to show you anything else but announcements. If for some reason their Google link is not here or here, then go into Classwork. This will have all of their assignments and their notes and their videos. A lot of times teachers will put useful tools and they'll put their Zoom link somewhere on this page. All right. If you look, a lot of teachers will put like Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. That's how they organize their content. Sometimes they'll go week 1, week 2, week 3. It just kind of depends. Different teachers like to organize their classrooms differently. And then on the stream, on the left-hand side right here, it'll usually show you upcoming assignments. All right, when you click into the assignments, it'll usually have assignments organized by the ones that were turned in, the ones that were assigned, all of them, or the graded ones. That's basically kind of how most Google Classrooms are set up. Announcements in the front, assignments in the classwork. It'll show you the people that are in the class. And then at the very end, it'll show you grades. This is great as a teacher, but your grades will come in as you get in as a student. Some parents have never seen the inside of a Google Classroom, and that's kind of it. And that's a quick explanation of how those go. All right, so a couple of things that have come up. I work a lot with students who are having tech problems. Some of the things that have come up with us is a lot of your Chromebooks, if you can't get into your Chromebook, please make sure it's connected to the internet. That's the very first thing you have to do. Make sure you save your work. If your computer is not working very well, try restarting it. Save your work, restart it. What happens a lot of times is the computer will go ahead and close out old programs it wasn't using. It'll start up again. It'll clear a lot of cache files, which is basically just taking up space and slowing it down, and it'll fix most problems. Try to limit how many things you have connected to the internet at your home. Disconnect the Xbox, turn off the Netflix. Don't watch YouTube on the side while you're on the computer because it'll slow down your internet, and it might even kick you out of the class because it won't have enough bandwidth for you. One thing I like to do is I like to tell my own children in the morning, start your computer 20 to 30 minutes before the first class. Give it some time to do its own updates. Give it some time to kind of process the classroom. And our computers here at the school district, they update automatically. So, but they will do that first thing when you turn them on. So give it some time to do that. Don't try to do updates and class time at the same time. It'll freeze your computer. It just won't be a good thing. 3 classes of streaming, straight streaming is a lot for a little Chromebook to handle. If you try to put another 3 hours on top of it, it might be really slow and start lagging. So a quick tip is after period 3, restart your computer real quick, let it clean out its cache and files again, try the next 3 classes for the day, and you should be fine. And then when in doubt, if you don't know how your computer is running, do a quick speed test, and it'll tell you how fast your computer is working. You need 3 megabytes to do a good stream. And if it's under 3 megabytes and you keep getting kicked out, then that's probably why. Any questions?
Yes, you did have a couple.
Okay.
The first question was, do you think Facebook is a good way to keep up to date with children's school?
I did have a section on there about Facebook. Twitter, Instagram. What else do we use at the high school? We use all of those platforms, and I will say um, Facebook as a form, and YouTube, sorry. Facebook as a form of information is a very good thing. It allows you to kind of have pictures and keep it fun for the kids. We have to remember that our students communicate a little bit differently than we do. They like to see it out on social media. So if they're going to have their face in social media, you might as well put that information right there so they read it. Because otherwise, if you tell them, hey, Aaliyah, that's my daughter, Aaliyah, go into the high school's webpage and read the new announcements, they're going to think it's so boring that they might not even do it. So as a parent, and I would say, yeah, let's use it positively and let's communicate that way. I will say students nowadays, use Twitter and Instagram a whole lot more than they use the Facebook. It's almost like the Facebook's getting outdated. As a parent, I'm outdated. I still use Facebook, but that is what I believe about it. So yes, definitely check the social media networks. I think it's a good idea if it's used right.
The other one was a tip that we got. We don't know how valid it is, but it said to make sure the kids' mark stuff is done even after they have done it and submitted it through another program.
Make sure that it's marked done.
That's what they're saying.
Okay, so yes, if I think I know what they're saying, then it's almost like make sure the student goes into their portal and make sure that they see it marked as completed so that they're getting credit for it. I know a lot of kids in the elementary and the junior high level, they will do a complete assignment and forget to hit the button submit. So then they get the whole assignment done, but they don't get any credit for it. So we do want to make sure that they hit submit, hit done, and then go and check to make sure it's completed. So yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder, whoever said that.
I think that's all we have listed thus far.
Okay, let me see.
Well, on that note, I'd like to thank both of our presenters again, both Jane Oddie and Alejandro Ruiz. Both of those tutorials gave a lot of good information, and we really appreciate the time that you took to put those together and share that with us. I would like to know I would like to direct you all to an opportunity to earn extra credit and win prizes, because who doesn't like extra credit as we've been talking about school? If you attended via Zoom, there's a survey that was emailed to you and you can complete that survey. If you watched on Facebook or Channel 16 or on YouTube, you can email Carbondale United 15 to get the survey, and you will have to answer have a secret word, give us a secret word to get that survey. And the secret word is non-violence. So everybody likes some extra credit. Everybody likes the opportunity to win some prizes. And if you would complete that survey, either emailed to you or access the survey with the secret word non-violence, you can have the opportunity to do just that. From the other presenters and the other folks that are involved with this, is there anything else that we'd like to mention or say before we wrap up? Okay. Well, I want to say farewell and thank you all so much. And our contact information is here on the screen in front of you. Carbondale United 15 at gmail.com. Phone number 618-306-5885. Feel free to contact us to get a copy of this presentation. And we want to say thank you to all. If you will please take a minute to look at the many individuals and organizations that help support this tonight. We want to thank all of them. And if there are any of them that you know or have involvement with, please pass on your thanks to them for us. Thank you all very much, and I wish you good night.